Alright team, let's talk standard apply in C++. Imagine you have a very simple function, right? Let's call it add, and let's say this function takes in 3 arguments, right? Int a, really random, right? So int a, int b, int c. The job of this function is to simply add these 3 arguments together and return it, right? So it returns the addition of a plus b plus c. Now you want to invoke this function, right? And to invoke this function, obviously you'll have to provide 3 arguments, and let's say your 3 arguments are wrapped up in a tuple, right? So let's create a tuple called args, and let's say our 3 arguments are 2, 3, 4, right? Your arguments are wrapped up in a tuple, and your job is to call this function with these 3 arguments, right? One way to do it would be, okay, I would try to extract the 3 arguments from the tuple one by one using the standard get, right? Give me the 0th argument and pass in the tuple, right? So this would give me the first argument. I can do similar things for the second and third argument. So in B, give me the second, and then E, give me the third, right? So you have your 3 arguments that you extracted from the tuple, and then you can simply call your function, right? So let's do add a, b, c, right? If we run this, we should hopefully see 9, because that's the summation of these 3 numbers. Now, if you notice, right, to do a very simple job, we had to write so much of code, right? The boilerplate code. Now in comes C++ 17 and in comes standard apply. So you can get rid of all this code here that I have highlighted and simply make use of standard apply, right? So let's see it in action. The way you do it is standard apply. Standard apply takes in 2 things, right? The first argument that it takes in is a callable object. In this case, the callable object is our function add, and the second argument it takes in is a tuple, right? So let's say args. So if I run this program, we should still see 9, and then you can get rid of all this additional code that you added to extract the arguments from your tuple. Isn't that great, right? Alright, so a couple of things to keep in mind when using standard apply, right? The type of arguments that you have wrapped up in the tuple and the arguments that your callable takes in have to match. So in this case, your type in the tuple is int, and your callable takes in all ints, right? So it's good, they have to match. Now for example, if I change this last argument to become a string, you're going to see all kinds of compilation problems, right? So that's a thing to keep in mind. The type of the arguments in your tuple and the type that your callable takes in have to match. The second thing to keep in mind is the number of arguments, right? So let's change this back to a working state, right? The number of arguments also need to match. So for example, if I put in 1 extra argument in my tuple, you're going to see all kinds of compilation problems, right? And we don't want that. So 2 things that can go wrong while using standard apply are the type and the number of arguments. So standard apply works with different types of callable, can work with different types of callable objects, right? The first argument to the standard apply is a callable object. So in this case, we used a function, but you are good to apply you're good to give it like lambda expressions, functors, right? Anything that is a callable, standard apply should be able to deal with it, right? So let's see another example where we actually pass standard apply a lambda expression. So let's call it lambda, and let's make this lambda take in 2 strings, right? Let's call it A and let's call it B. And let's do something that's very simple, right? Let's concatenate these 2 strings and return them. So let's do A plus B. Now you can pass this function in, and obviously your args now need to be strings. So let's define two strings here. So let's use something simple, a, b and c, d, right? Let's run this. There you go, right? A, B, C, D. So there you go, guys. Hopefully you learned something about standard apply, right? It definitely helps in reducing a lot of boilerplate code, right? Makes your code easier to understand and read, and your intent is clear, right? So feel free to experiment with it. And as always, if you liked what I taught today, hit the like button. And if you have any comments or feedback or questions, please post them in the comment section, right? Thank you very much. See you next time.